Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Talladega SuperSpeedway for tonight's running of the Sam Maxwell Customs Talladega 150 here in the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series for the American Sim Racing League. I am Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight will be Cameron Rich. And Cameron, we were at Talladega last week here in the American Sim Racing Series for the SMS Cup Series, and it was an absolute spectacular race. Ty Hester getting the win on the Cup Series side of things, but now we're in the trucks, completely different vehicle. They race much the same, but I'm expecting to see much of the same action as you see already some action here in practice. What are your thoughts about Talladega, Cam?
Absolutely. We start a new round tonight, the playoffs, the round of 8, and it's definitely going to be a crazy one. Talladega, probably the one track that most drivers would not want to start the playoffs at just because of the nature of the race. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a crazy one, especially with these trucks. Like you said, Peter, these trucks always put on a great show just because of the way they are. They punch a huge hole in the air, and these runs are going to be massive tonight.
Absolutely. If you were here last week for the SMS Cup Series side, of course, you know that these drivers put on quite the show, 3x3x3 for a good portion of last week's race. Most of it was under the green flag conditions. I expect to see much the same here. But Cameron, last week we saw a different type of strategy get to the checkered flag as Ty Hester and Jared Bogart, they were able to get their way through a last lap accident to finish first and second. Do you expect to see similar strategies here in play tonight?
You know, I'm really not sure, Peter. This is a bit of a shorter race here, 57 laps, which is pretty short by Talladega standards. This will go by pretty quickly if we can go green. But I'm expecting probably we're right out there at the cusp of the one pit stop window. I think we're going to see 2 stops tonight, though, just because it's going to be a little bit close there. But out here in qualifying, you see right there Ty Hester, the driver who you were just talking about, who got the...
Yeah, Ty Hester in that number 36 machine did get the win last week. Possibly a little bit of technical difficulties there on Cameron Ridge's microphone. We'll have to check back in with him here in a moment. But Ty Hester coming out onto the racetrack. Here he is down the back stretch. You'll see a lot of these drivers go up near the wall. Last week in the SMS Cup Series side of things, they only got 1 qualifying lap. Here today, they're going to get 2 qualifying laps. So you'll see these drivers run up near the wall, but it was kind of interesting to see last week the drivers kind of go out there for one and done. There is last week's race winner in the Cup Series side of things, Ty Hester, trying to do the Talladega double here tonight as he heads through the tri-oval. Of course, tri-oval is one of those talking points every time you come to Talladega because the start-finish line is after the tri-oval, unlike Daytona, and races can be won and lost in those couple hundred feet between the tri-oval and the start-finish line. There you see the 04 machine. Of course, the 04 driven by Chris Titus had a pretty decent run last week at Talladega going as he works his way now through turns number 1 and 2. This is their first time lap. You'll see all these drivers up near the wall, especially here's the 42 Jim Foose. He needs a good week because this is the second round of the playoffs for these Truck Series drivers, and it's a new round of playoffs in the Premier Series side of things. If you don't really know how the American Sim Racing Series works, well, they have a Premier Series points tally. That is just every single race that they run on Tuesday nights, whether it's a Cup Series or a Truck Series race. They kind of add those points together, and that's turned the Premier Series, and then they have an individual Truck Series points title. Here's the number 6 machine, Jared Haggerty. He's already made his way down to the inside groove, coming through the trial for one last time. And Cameron, hopefully you're back in the booth, but all these drivers running up near the wall in their first qualifying lap, why did they do that?
Yeah, apologies for my technical issues there. I did not have my stuff sorted tonight, but we are absolutely good right now, and should be good now. But why these drivers run up next to the walls? Because you want to get that truck wound up as much as you can, get as much speed as you can before you start your flying lap, which is going to be your second lap. So you want to run the longest distance around the racetrack and just kind of turn the wheel as little as possible, scrub off as little speed as you can. Then you'll see the trucks dive down on the inside here, probably right off this tri-oval, and then just run the second lap all the way around the bottom.
And there is the number 73 of Jonathan Holstein. You see him. He's just now starting his first time lap. It will be their second time lap. That will be the quick one, as you see the number 1 of Jason Stewart. He's working his way now through turn number 3 and 4, I do believe. He's going to drop down to the bottom. And Cameron, last week in the Cup Series side of things, we saw a lot of non-qualifiers. Not very many people went out there and took time, and it was those drivers who decided to lay back for a good portion of the race, because when disaster strikes here, disaster strikes pretty quickly, and it can eat up a lot of cars.
Yeah, really, that's a hit or miss strategy, because we did see a lot of the wrecks, or really the Cup race was not that caution-filled, but one of the wrecks did happen at the front of the field. So really, at Talladega, there's just really nowhere you can go to be completely safe, except out in the lead, unless you get turned from behind or something like that. But we've seen wrecks happen in the back, we've seen wrecks happen in the middle of the pack, we've seen wrecks happen at the front, and I'm really not sure as a driver myself. I've been in wrecks on every part of the field, even coming to pit road. So I kind of just give up on that strategy and just kind of let the race play out the way it's going to play out.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take you through some of the playoff drivers here tonight. Remember, like I said just a little bit ago, there's 2 different championships in contention here tonight. The first one of those is the Premier Series, and the Premier Series playoff drivers include Jared Bogart in the 00. He came out with a second place finish last week. He's not a big fan of these super speedway races, but a good finish last week has propelled him up into this next round of the Premier Series. He leads the points by 19 points over Mitch Brown. Tim Knott currently sits 3rd in the Premier Series points. 4th is Jared Haggerty. 5th place is Jim Foose in that bright yellow Menards number 42. We'll see him out there on the racetrack, I am sure, here tonight. Kelsey Rogers, 6th in points. Will Worsler, 7th. And Joseph Seville, 8th in points. And they did get playoff point bonuses. So your top 8 drivers are separated by 40 points going into this round. So the drivers really needing a good run tonight include Jim Foose, Kelsey Rogers, Will Worsler, and Joseph Seville. And that is the Premier Series side of things. And Cameron, do you have the Truck Series points lined up for us to tell us who those Truck Series playoff drivers are? In fact, really, you don't need it, because on the left side of your screen, you'll see the playoff drivers in blue here tonight. But Cameron, why don't you go through those Truck Series playoff drivers?
Yeah, absolutely. We got 8 drivers now vying for the championship in this round of 8, beginning here tonight, and currently the top of the board. Will Worsler on 4,006 points, and then the rest of the 7 drivers are all on 4,000. So that's going to be Mitch Brown, Jim Foose, Jared Haggerty, Jared Bogart, Joseph Seville, Richard Stallings, and Jason Stewart. And currently, right now in qualifying, that number 42 of Jim Foose is your current quickest playoff driver tonight. I believe he was one of the top qualifiers in the Cup Series race. That number 42 of Jim Foose, knowing how to get around here in a hurry under qualifying conditions, and had a good run going last week at the Cup race, Peter, but got in some trouble right there at the end, and kind of put a dash in his championship hopes a little bit there.
Yeah, actually, Jason Stewart in the number 1, Cameron, is the fastest of those playoff drivers. Not quite sure why his name isn't being shown up in blue, possibly a little bit of technical difficulties there. But Jason Stewart in the number 1 machine, getting word that it's an unfortunate glitch. But Jason Stewart in that number 1, just keep a reminder on the back of your hand or the back of your forehead, however that works, that the number 1 is a driver in the playoff contention in the Truck Series points, and he is currently the fastest qualifier out of the playoff drivers in that number 1 machine. Here we got the number 47 of Richard Fletcher. He is on his 2nd qualifying lap, so this is his fast lap. You see him right down there below the yellow line, trying to just take away a little bit of the racetrack. He's going to come in with a 6th place time in that number 47. And Richard Fletcher was pretty much up near the front last week in the SMS Cup Series side, but I expect to see a good showing out of him here tonight at Sam Maxwell Customs Talladega 150. As the racetrack has now gone silent, we have about 2 minutes left here, as there's a couple of other race cars out there on the racetrack right now. But Cameron, I gotta say that coming to Talladega is one of those things, you either like it or love it. What's your personal opinion about super speedway racing?
Nope. That's pretty much what I have to say about it. I actually love racing it, but I hate just how crapshooty it is. Really don't have a lot of will here, you really don't have a lot of way to kind of get things to drivers. Probably like, well, I can't do anything here, so I might as well just kind of see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I know we've had a lot of races here, Peter, together, and being teammates and all, we've worked together pretty well, and that's really one of the teammates, or that's really one of the I forgot my words here. One of the things that's going to be important here tonight is having teammates to kind of help you and help you through the pack and everything.
Well, we saw some team pushing go wrong last week. Ty Hester pushing Mitch Brown on the last lap and causing a ensuing melee on the backstretch. It was an absolute crazy wreck. If you haven't watched last week's finish, definitely go back and take a peek at that one, because it was crazy, Cameron. Just about every race car on the entire racetrack was in a pile of junk in turn number 3 last week, as Ty Hester was able to kind of squeak through after nudging the 51 and took home the checkered flag. Speaking of the number 51 machine, there he is. That is Mitch Brown working his way through the tri-oval. We'll see what kind of lap he can put in that number 51 machine. He goes P2 on the board, bumping down Michael Krobach. So Jason Stewart and Mitch Brown currently on the front row. Going to see if there's any other race cars out on the racetrack. Does not look like it. So qualifying will come to an end here, Cameron. And good qualifying run there right by that 51 right at the end to go second. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, almost like a Formula One type strategy there. Just wait till the very end of qualifying and get right across the line as soon as qualifying ends. But a good run for him. That puts 2 playoff drivers on the front row for tonight's race, and I believe that's going to. Yeah, we have your grid set up here in just a moment. Once our producer gets it going there. On the pole, we got the number 1 of Jason Stewart, and the number 51 of Mitch Brown's going to roll off to his outside. A pair of Toyotas right up there, starting at the front of the pack. Michael Krobach's going to roll off in the 3rd position, and right next to Josh Walker in the 03 Chevrolet. Pete Baskins rolls off in the 5th position in that number 3 car, and to his outside, Lee Staples in the 26. Richard Fletcher in the 47 rolls off in the 7th position, and to his outside, number 42 of Jim Foose. And rounding out your top 10, we have the number 45 of Nick Curling and Ty Hester, last week's winner in the Cup race. Peter.
Starting on row number 6, we've got the 04 of Chris Titus and Will Worsler in the number 29 machine to his outside, starting from 12th. Row number 7, we got the number 6 of Jared Haggerty starting from the 13th position, and the number 55 of Brian Yazek to his outside. Row number 8 is comprised of the 66 of Edward Bray and the number 28 of Troy Haight. Row number 9 now is the number 17 of Richard Stallings and the number 73 of Jonathan Holstein. Row number 10, running out your top 10, the number 31 of Jimmy McKee, and the 35 of Kelsey Rogers. I cannot read today. Cody Spiker will roll off from the 21st position. Jared Mogard will be the first car not to take time from 22nd. Brad Cross starting 23rd here tonight. Sam Maxwell, not quite sure if he'll be starting this race, but iRacing is scoring him 24th. I doubt that 98 will, as he is now an off-track official. That will move Tim Knott up to that 24th position. Alan Young will be starting 25th. Starting in the 26th position will be Chris Lane. 27th will be Alex Giese. Starting to his outside will be the number 06 of Jack Wells. Starting from 29th will be Doug Mullins. And then to his outside, Tyler Seville. And starting shotgun on today's field will be the number 4 machine of J.R. Bash. If everything kind of is sorted through, have to kind of shuffle a row back there, but that is kind of your unofficial starting order, at least near the back, once iRacing shuffles everything through. But Cameron, you kind of said that this is a type of racing. Nope. You're not a big fan of it. But, this type of racing, whether or not you're a fan of it or not, it definitely breaks up kind of the monotony, because it is very different. It's different than what you see on the other racetracks, where field tends to get a little bit spread out. You have aero push to deal with, that sort of thing. But here today, no aero push to be concerned about. You have to worry about your engine temperatures. You have to worry about your buddies. You have to worry about your teammates. So it just is a different type of race, whether you like it or not. It's just different. For me personally, I don't usually like how these races go. They never tended to work out well for me. This is a race where, if you finish in the top 5, that's great. But if you end up in victory lane, your race has just gone absolutely perfect. So, if you come home with a checkered flag, I always kind of circled this as a race I wanted to win, because if you come home with a checkered flag here, like I said, your race has gone just about perfect. As pace car lights are off, we'll get set to go to green flag this time. But Cameron, butterflies in these drivers' stomachs, you think, starting this round of the playoffs?
It's absolutely right now, and they're ramping up intensity right now with that pace car moving off to the left, coming down pit road in just a moment. All of these drivers, all 31 drivers in this field, are thinking about what their first moves are going to be down there in the turns 1 and 2 end of the speedway, and try to make sure they don't do something that's going to cause a wreck. Try to get a good restart, try to get the power down, and try to stay in the pack. But we're about to be green flag racing here at Talladega in just a few moments. Right there, the flagman throws that green flag out here, and we are green flag here for the ASRS Truck Series. And a good start for the whole field, side by side through into turn number 1. Mitch Brown with a little bit of advantage, but we'll see that. I think that inside line will have the advantage through 1 and 2. It usually does. Looks like everybody is kind of staying double wide right now. I see some activity there in the 3rd lane of the racetrack, but up here at the front, number 1 of Jason Stewart off to an early lead.
Yeah, here they come down the back stretch. The one machine of Jason Stewart has broken himself out front, but they're pretty much double file right back behind him as the number 72 of Krobach gives him a really good shove, headed off into turn number 3. That's going to give the first side-by-side battle to Pete Baskins and the number 51 of Mitch Brown as they head through turns number 3 and 4. Who will lead the first lap? Mike Krobach wants to lead that first lap as he pulls out. They're side-by-side for the race lead going through the trioval.
And Mitch Brown, he had that 72 pull up right in front of him. He fell back a little bit, but I think he might start charging towards the front a little bit with help from that car of Michael Krobach. But side by side, still into turn number 1. One of Jason Stewart still has the advantage. The outside line not really formed up too incredibly well yet, but you see that good push from Mitch Brown for that 72. Looks like they might have some momentum here off of turn number 2.
Tough break for Doug Mullins of the number 18 machine. He's already pulled off the racetrack. Looks like some connection issues with that number 18, but back up at the front, the 72 of Krobach getting a really good push right now from the 51 of Mitch Brown as they head through turns number 3 and 4 once again. And Cameron, as you said earlier, if this race stays green, they can get through this one pretty darn quickly. Ooh, the 51 moved down to possibly get a little bit of side drafting, or maybe get a little bit of clean air on the nose. We heard last week that what led to that final accident between Ty Hester and Mitch Brown was the fact that Ty Hester's engine started to overheat, and these trucks are no exception. They can overheat as well. Look, they're already 3 wide a little bit further back. 3 wide there between Fletcher, the number 6 of Haggerty, and the 36 of Ty Hester as they start to get sorted out down the backstretch. A couple of drivers going down there below the yellow line down the backstretch. That's kind of out of bounds there. You don't really want to do that, but meanwhile, we're 3 wide now for second.
Yeah, we're 3 by 3 by 3 almost here. That number 66 of Ed Bray in the sucker hole as well, but well, actually not really a sucker hole. That line is moving pretty well. That that middle line right there, led by the number 3 of Pete Baskins. Ooh, almost some contact there off of turn number 4. I don't think Jason Stewart and the 1 knew that 3 was there, but you saw what happened to him. He got shoved way out to the outside, and he is losing spots and spots and spots, and there is nothing you can do as a driver there, Peter. That is a helpless feeling. He just has to slot in whenever he can.
Yeah, and we were 3 by 3 by 3, but now we're pretty much back to 2 by 2 by 2 all the way back, because that outside line just did not have the momentum that it needed. And unfortunately for Pete Baskins, there was no one out there to pick him up as he's now slid back to around the 10th position or slow, racing with the number 47 of Richard Fletcher. But the number 6 machine of Jared Haggerty has been able to take that number 6 machine to the front as he's now being pushed by the 66 of Edward Bray. And look at that outside line, Josh Walker in that retro Terry Labonte Kellogg's Cornflakes Chevy Silverado. He's trying to get pushed to the front here.
And you can see how trivial qualifying here is at Talladega. Jared Haggerty and Edward Bray started 13th and 15th respectively, and they were, well, 1-2 there for a little bit, but Josh Walker actually leading that lap on the outside line. You see he decides to pull down in front of Haggerty. No, he does not have the room to do that right now, so he has to get that push from Mitch Brown through 1 and 2, but here comes that inside line. Actually, Mitch Brown looks like he's going to want to go 3 wide and try to force that third lane up there right on the outside of Josh Walker and put him in the sucker hole. He's got a good push from behind Ty Hester down the backstretch, so Mitch Brown looking pretty racy here early on.
Yeah, the whole field is quite racy, and this is not what some of the drivers a little bit further back wanted to see. One of those drivers, Jared Bogart, he is currently 27. He's kind of the last car in this lead group. Another driver deciding to stay back a little bit, Tyler Seville. He's got about 3 or 4 truck lengths between himself and the 77 of Alex Giese, as there's a lot of racing up near the front. Looks like the 51 of Mitch Brown's gone all the way to the top side, above the number 1 of Jason Stewart. Don't think that's going to work out for that number 51. He does back down, get back behind the number 1 machine, and here comes the 1 machine of Jason Stewart. He's going to try and get the lead back as they're 3 wide now for the race.
Yeah, it looks like these guys are getting a good run off of turn number 2 and making that third groove on the outside work down the backstretch, and getting really good runs to try to force themselves out into the lead, but doesn't really hold very long. So I'm not really sure what the dominant line right now, Peter, is. Usually you would think that we've seen that outside line be kind of the dominant line in these races before, but it looks like that inside line is holding pretty tough right now. But as I say that, Jason Stewart and Mitch Brown.
The number 3 machine, Pete Baskins, is around the 29 of Will Worsler. He's trying to save it, coming up the racetrack. What a save from that number 29 machine. We don't know what's happened to the number 3, Pete Baskins. He's still trying to hold on to it, but for now, we stay green at everyone scattering to avoid the 29 and the 3. Looks like the number 3, Cameron, just got loose in the tri-oval, came up the racetrack, caught the 29 in the left rear, and what an incredible save, and what heads-up driving by some of those drivers. The 42 of Jim Foose in particular, to just kind of wash himself up the racetrack to avoid that number 29, give him space, give him room to catch that truck, but that was extremely impressive.
Yeah, really, that was such a good save for the 29 that iRacing reloaded the paint scheme mid-save, so kind of cool to see that. But well, Worsler still he's in the pack, still the pack kind of broken up compared to what it was a couple laps ago, but he's still in the pack, and that was an incredible job of saving that car. It is really hard to save a truck or a car here at Talladega in that situation, because you have to think about all the cars around you, and you know, usually you have a little bit of a slower steering ratio at these tracks than normal, so you really have to kind of crank that wheel and hope that it doesn't cut too much, and then you'll be head straight into the wall there. But really good piece of driving there for Will Worsler.
That number 29 machine did not drop below 160 miles an hour in that entire save. Initial contact happened at 184 miles an hour, and look at this. He's now back up in this pack. There's that, you see that bright yellow trimmed number 29 machine there, kind of right at the end of the pack, right behind the 03 machine, I should say, of Josh Walker. But back up the front, we're side by side once again for the race lead between Jason Stewart and Edward Bray. These two drivers now been duking it out for, I'd say, the last 4 or 5 laps, as we are only 9 laps into this event, but already almost 20% of the way through this race.
You know, the funny thing, Peter, is I was actually thinking that same exact thing. We're only about 9 laps in, but really, this race is not very long, so this is kind of going to be one of those sprint races where it's going to be imperative to get yourself in position pretty early on and kind of keep yourself up there. So I think that's kind of why we're seeing aggressive driving up here at the front.
A couple of drivers who have lost the lead draft include the number 24, Alan Young, Tyler Seville in the number 11, Kelsey Rogers, Jimmy McKee, and Cody Spiker, as well as Pete Baskins. We saw the number 3 machine have all those troubles. Well, he has been able to find some buddies out there on the racetrack, which will be good for him in that number 3 machine. But for Tyler Seville and Alan Young, they've kind of paired up together, and the 47 of Richard Fletcher just barely hanging on to this lead pack, as the number 1 machine of Jason Stewart has once again gotten his way to the race lead. Edward Bray shooting up the racetrack, sees that outside line, starting to have a run out there led by the 42 of Jim Foose, that bright yellow and blue Polco Intercon Toyota Camry. Not Camry, Tundra. This is not the Cup Series side of things.
Same thing.
Yeah, we ride on board with Jim Foose. Yes, it's a Toyota, you know. Not really a Toyota, really
it's a two-frame race car that kind of resembles what it's supposed to be, kind of a little bit, not really.
Kind of a little bit, maybe, sort of. They used to more so back in the day, but whatever. We'll get off that topic as they head down the backstretch. We ride on board with that number 42 machine. He's got the number 17, Richard Stallings, out front of him. And oh, not anymore. Jim Foose is going to go to the top side here. We're 3 wide for the race lead. As got the 66 of Ed Bray on the bottom, the 17 of Richard Stallings now the sucker hole, they like to call it. But Jim Foose just unable to get the momentum up there, and that's help from his teammate Nick Curling right behind him. Not able to get, 4 wide for a split second as Curling and Foose became detached. And now the 42 and the 45 are dropping back through the field as it does look like we have a change of the lead up at the front. Mitch Brown has taken the 51 machine past the number 66 of Ed Bray. So Mitch Brown once again asserting himself here early in the running at Talladega.
You know, I'm noticing something, Peter. It looks like these trucks are pretty on edge. If you look at when they make moves, the rear ends are waggling a little bit. Wiggling, waggling, whatever you want to call it there. When that 42 went up to the outside line, the rear end was just not planted at all. Looks like he was about to spin out, so might be tough track conditions here early on. Track temperature is 106, so it is pretty toasty out there. I wouldn't think that would cause that much drama with the way the trucks are driving, but it seems that it might be a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that our first accident that was almost a caution beyond the great save by Will Worsler, that happened through the tri-oval. And Cameron, the tri-oval is probably the most treacherous portion of this racetrack because the race car isn't loaded as much as it is through the high banks here. It can get really squirrely in the rear end, especially if you have a truck tucked up behind your rear spoiler. And I think that's exactly what happened to Pete Baskins. Just got a little bit of aero loose with the car behind taking his air off of his spoiler and almost had that collision. But that was probably about 6 or 7 laps ago now. So all these drivers, I'm sure, have been made aware that it's a little bit slippery, especially through the tri-oval. They just need to log laps at this point in the race. There's still a good chunk of the race to go as we've now cracked the 20% race distance. But so far, every single lap has been green as that last time by. Give that lap led to Edward Bray by 11 1/1000ths of a second.
And the funny thing about that tri-oval is it's not only is it not as banked as the rest of the track, but it is very, very bumpy. Actually, when I first, 51 gets moved out of the way there for a little bit there, but it looks like he actually might have done that on his own accord. But it was a very kind of sketch move from up here in the booth. It looks like he's going to lose the lead to the 6 of Jared Haggerty into turn number 3 there. 66 of Ed Bray with that push from the 17 of Stallings behind him. Looks like they're fighting on the outside of 3 and 4. But inside line coming back strong with that push from Mitch Brown. But coming up here to the tri-oval, it is a very bumpy part of the racetrack. You really can't see it from the perspective here, but if you look on board with one of these trucks through there, it is pretty bumpy there. It almost feels like old Daytona at that part of the racetrack.
Yeah, and you know what, Cameron? I've seen this time and time again where you have a second pack that is so far behind the lead pack that they try and work together and they kind of all bunch up, and it has led to accidents in the tri-oval. And it's a second pack. It's a pack that is trying to stay out of the hornet's nest here, and I've seen that happen multiple occasions. So we'll have to see if that is something that happens again here tonight. But there is that second pack. It's currently 6 trucks long, as the number 24 and the number 11 were run down by those other trucks. They are running pretty respectable lap times with one another, however. Back up the front, Jared Haggerty and the number 6 machine will lead this lap with help from the number 51 machine. And 36 of Ty Hester now has worked his way up into the 3rd position. He's right behind the number 51 of Mitch Brown. That pairing didn't go too well on the last lap in the SMS Cup Series side of things last week, but maybe they can turn that around in the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series race here tonight as you ride on board with the 55 of Brian Yazik. He had a really good race going in that HPP Simulations machine last week And once again here tonight, just outside of the top 10, just about where he qualified to start this race, as we'll have 41 laps to go this time by.
And this lead pack is as calm as it has been all race. As I say that, we have a battle for the lead. Mitch Brown pulls to the outside of that 6 of Jerry Haggerty. Here comes Ty Hester. He's not content with riding behind that 51. He's going to make that third groove on the outside work right there. And he has a huge run going into turn number 1. We'll see if that's able to hold and get him to the lead. I don't think it will, because that 42 of Jim Foose behind him is not very close to him. That inside line has the momentum right now, but at commentators curse always, Peter, isn't it? We always seem to say things that end up being untrue, and as soon as it looked calm, we have a hornet's nest up here at the front once again.
Yeah, if you don't believe in the commentators curse, just watch a couple of 3Y TV broadcasts here on YouTube. It's either the commentators curse or the ray gun. We have both up here in the booth, but nonetheless, looks like that number 6 has gotten his nose in front, at least for now. Look at Lee Staples there, sitting in the 5th position in that number 26 machine is the 72 Michael Krobach. He's going to jump to the high side. Looks like he's jumping out of it here, and he's just going to drop to the back as he's passed by the 36 of Hester and the 1 of Stewart. There's Troy Haight in the number 28, the 41 of Tim Knott, the 73 of Holstein, 29 of Worsler, as he has now dropped pretty much all the way back to around the 15th position in that 72 machine. So maybe Krobach just deciding to take it easy. He's been up near the front. He's seen how that Chevrolet races amongst all the other cars. And, you know, in a couple laps here, Cameron, they'll probably think about coming down pit road for their first pit stop.
Yeah, I really think they will. You know, we're getting to that lap 20 mark, and that's about the 1/3 distance of this race. And, you know, I don't think we can make it all the way to lap 30 on fuel or lap 29. So I think probably going to be thinking about pit stops here in just a moment. And that's going to throw a wrench into everything. You really, Peter, you know this as well as anyone else. Green flag pit stops will win or lose you a race at Talladega or Daytona. That's if you get to that point in the race where you actually have green flag pit stops, that is the most important part of the race, and you have to execute that perfectly.
Yeah, you might not win a race on a super speedway on pit road, but you can 100% lose a race on pit road. So, you know, I've done it before myself. You speed on pit road, you're Mr. Pit Box, something like that. These super speedway packages, they just don't like to stop. And, you know, I've done it before. I'm sure it's going through all these drivers' minds. You kind of have to be a little bit more patient when you get to pit road here on a super speedway. You don't always want to just gun it and try and hit the brakes at the very last second, because you have so much to lose here getting to pit road if you screw up. So we'll have to keep an eye on that if we do get to green flag pit stops. But meanwhile, the 1 machine does continue to lead the way. It's kind of been, the number 6 machine leads the way as they've kind of been shuffling through amongst each other. The 6 to 51, the 1 and the 66 have pretty much led most of this race. Now the number 17 of Richard Stallings has help from the 36 of Ty Hester, right behind the number 1 of Mitch Brown. We'll see if that number 17 decides to duck out here. Is also the 45 of Curling. We've talked about him a couple times here so far tonight. He currently rides at about the 8th position.
And the funny thing about this race, the way it's going now, it almost looks like a carbon copy of the Cup race here last week, and no surprise there. These cars drive almost the same as those Cup cars, and you have many of the same drivers. So, you know, you can see the front runners coming up to play right now, kind of the good Super Speedway drivers kind of coming up to the front. You know, cream rises to the top, really.
Yeah, 100% true as we inch ever so close to the halfway mark. Still about 12 or so laps. Oh, the 45 of Nick Curling there in the wall in that machine. Not quite sure what happened there. Let's see if we can go back and see if we can get a replay. Maybe he was just thinking of dropping back. I do see a little bit of right front damage on that truck. Let's see if we can see what happened as we ride on board. Here he is going down the backstretch. He jumped up 3 wide to the outside of the 36 of Ty Hester, and just no one else going with him, Cameron. And he's kind of all by himself up there, and it just looked like it all of a sudden jumped up into the wall. Just this stopped turning, and that number 36 lost a lot of momentum, and he is holding on to the lead draft, though.
You know, as silly as that might look to some viewers, that is a lot easier to do than it looks like. You kind of get behind on the steering, focus on other things around you, and just kind of pop the wall there. You know, no harm, no foul. That car will be just fine if you can stay in the pack and get him some drafting help. He can be up right back at the front in just a few laps.
And let me tell you, folks, there is nothing like having two eyeballs that can see in 3D space. All these drivers, of course, looking at a 2D screen, and sometimes depth perception just isn't quite what it needs to be. I know I've made that mistake quite a few times, but meanwhile, up at the front, still Haggerty and Mitch Brown dueling it out for the race lead. Look at Lee Staples sitting there on the inside line behind the number 66 of Ed Bray. Really good run out of all 6 drivers there up at the front. They've really been there the whole time. And Cameron, we mentioned this last week. There's really 2 strategies to Talladega. One is to lay back and wait for the big one to happen. The second one is to try and lead every lap and keep the big one behind you.
Absolutely, and really that is very true. And all those people in the middle probably not having the strategies go the way they want. They're probably either wanting to go to the front or go to the back and kind of just in that kind of little middle space, middle ground where they are not really where they want to be. But up here at the front, I think these drivers up here are perfectly fine with being right where they were. Jared Haggerty, Ed Bray, Lee Staples, all there on the inside line, kind of in a line, but on the outside line, Mitch Brown, he's been very resilient all night on the outside line, trying to make something happen. He's got a good push from that number 17 of Richard Stallings, and somebody who has not been in the picture so much yet, Alex Easy in that 77 machine. He started all the way back in 27, and he's got himself into the top 5 currently.
Yeah, that number 77 machine is the biggest mover out there on the racetrack. Do want to keep the watchers updated on the second group. The second group currently led by we do have a car on pit road. The 03 of Josh Walker coming down pit road. Sorry to kind of break that train of thought, but Josh Walker is on pit road. The second group currently led by Alan Young is 21.5 seconds off the race lead. So they are practically half a lap down at this point in the race, Cameron. They are hoping to see a caution flag.
Absolutely, and they're actually losing time to the leaders right now, so whatever strategy they had is not working out. And they're actually lap time, Alan Young last time 51.9 and Jared Haggerty a 50.8, so 1.1 seconds slower per lap than that front group. That's going to being 22 seconds behind. They are going to need a lap down in about 25 to 30 laps if this thing goes keeps going green, which means they're actually going to go a lap down once we get closer to the end of this race, and that would be a definite sight to see. But definitely, yeah, like you said, they are absolutely hoping for a caution. They need one at this point. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
There is still a long way to go, though, for that caution flag to come out as we ride on board with the number 29 machine of Will Worcester, getting a little bit of help from the 73 of Jonathan Holstein there as they head off into turn number 3. The 41 of Tim Knott got purple numbers on that 41 machine for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Definitely cool to see that out of Tim in that Toyota Tundra. There he is right there in the center of your screen. Right behind him is the number 01 of Chris Lane. Haven't really talked about Chris Lane. He's pretty much been on just outside the Hornet's Nest, I would say. Wherever the 2 wide is, about 2 cars back, you'll find Chris Lane. Currently, he sits in the 12th position. I think he's just kind of being patient here early on. Right behind him, not too far, is Jim Foose and Richard Fletcher. Fletcher almost lost the lead draft not too long ago, but he was able to keep his foot in it and close back in on that lead group. There's currently a little bit of separation between Richard Fletcher and Chris Titus. The 04 machine is probably about 20 to 30 truck lengths behind the 47 machine, which is where you'll find Titus, Brad Cross, Jack Wells, J.R. Bash, Jared Mogart, Michael Krobach, Yazik, and Nick Curley. So, not too much has happened up at the front, beyond the 51 once again taking the race lead. But Cameron, it's been really impressive to see how patient these drivers have been. I mean, we saw a lot of craziness there not too long ago, but beyond that, these drivers have kind of settled into a rhythm now.
Absolutely, and I was actually surprised that we can make it to, we're on lap 28 now of 57, so this will be a one-stop race, it looks like, and a quick update on that 0-3 of Josh Walker. He sat on pit road for an extended period of time. He's currently 2 laps down, about to go 3 down, so whatever issue that 0-3 had apparently fixed now, but he is a couple of laps behind the pack. Another person on pit road there.
It's Josh Walker.
Yeah, Josh Walker once again, so whatever issue that car had, well, truck actually had is apparently not resolved, like I said, so he's coming down pit road and might be calling it a night here. Yeah, the commentator's curse here, but definitely, Peter, all these drivers are starting to think about pit stops right now. We're at the halfway point in the race, and you know, if you're going to pit, you might as well do it right now and get it out of the way. So I think that's definitely going through all of these drivers' minds and trying to get those pit stops. Since we only have one, you only have one opportunity to make or break your race right here, and it's definitely going to be a something to see for all of these drivers, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, really, with only one pit stop, if it ends up being a green flag pit stop, man, you cannot screw that up. Much better to be safe than sorry when you make that one pit stop, especially for the drivers both in the Premier Series playoffs and the Truck Series playoffs here in the Maxwell Customs Truck Series. You just can't make a mistake getting to pit road, and once the first big group of cars or trucks come down pit road, I expect to see kind of the next half of trucks on pit road the lap after that, as the number 17 Richard Stallings is trying to get himself up to the race lead. Ooh, look at the number 51 and the 6, maybe doing a little bit of side drafting here as we get close to the halfway mark. Still no one coming down pit road as of yet, but we have eclipsed the halfway mark. Oh, a couple of drivers on pit road, like you said, Cameron. Jim Foose right there with Nick Curling in the 45, Michael Krobach in the 72, and Brian Yazik in the 55. They're all on pit road together, so I think probably this is going to open the pit cycle.
Yeah, and let's see what all of these drivers can get in their pit stalls cleanly. Jim Foose in, Brian Yazik in, Curling in, and Michael Krobach. You saw how easy he took it into his pit stall. Might have been a little bit too easy there, actually, but good pit stops for all of those drivers. And it looks like going to be 4 tires for Jim Foose, and he is down and away. So, like you said, the window is going to be open for all of these drivers. Jim Foose is going to be very happy that those 3 drivers came behind him. And right there at the front of the pack, you see some activity out here on pit road. Mitch Brown coming down. I believe I saw Ty Hester there as well. Jared Haggerty. So most of the front pack on pit road right now. There's Will Worsler as well. I believe Tim Knott and Jason Stewart all there. So big little hornet's nest here on the pit road right now. So it's going to be imperative for all these drivers to get in cleanly and get their stops done and away.
And actually, the lap prior to Jim Foose coming down pit road, the J.R. Bash, Jack Wells, Chris Lane, as well as 41. That's Tim Knott around on the front stretch. We'll see if he can get righted in that number 41 machine, but that is absolute writing on the wall for that number 41. Looks like he just possibly spun getting off a pit road, perhaps here. We saw that last week in the SMS Cup Series side of things as he shifted up through the gears. Yeah, just lost control of it into the outside wall. No caution out in the racetrack. We stay green.
And that could have been an absolute disaster if a pack was coming by when that happened. So it's a good thing nobody was around when that happened. A couple more activity on, or a couple more drivers on pit road right here.
Cameron, sorry to jump in, but Richard Fletcher is rally crossing coming through turn number 1 and 2. Looks like these trucks just don't want to get up to speed out there on the racetrack. You see some left side damage on that 47. We'll see what happened to him. He's already got left side damage. Not quite sure when that happened, but he hit the apron right here, and we just cut from the replay. But definitely, yeah, just got on the power a little bit too much beans, as our producer Carlos Acosta says in our ears quite a bit. So that 47 definitely having a tough break here. That's definitely not what he wanted to have happen here in this first round of pit stops.
Yeah, it looks like he had double trouble there. Really had trouble getting off of pit road the first time, and then come through the apron banking in turns 1 and 2 that just hit the transition there, and it shot the car sideways, and it was on from there. But you see pit stops cycling through right now. You see Jared Haggerty and Will Worsler hooked up together. They are currently 5.5 seconds behind the Jonathan Holstein, Lee Staples group, or that was actually last time. They have already pitted and gotten out, so that I believe the lead will be handed back to Jared Haggerty once we cross the start-finish line here in about 20 seconds time with that push from Will Worsler. But one thing I wanted to kind of say, Peter, something you brought up that was pretty interesting. The penalty for getting a bad pit stop here is huge. You will be behind the pack, but you know, I've always said it's a lot better to take it easy, and because you know, the best case scenario is you're going to end up a couple seconds ahead of the rest of the pack, and you're just going to get ran down, kind of like you see right here anyway with the 51 and the 28 of Troy Haight and Mitch Brown. They've kind of caught that lead pack of Jared Haggerty and Will Worsler there, so definitely I've always kind of been under that whole school of thought that it's just better to take it easy than trying to risk it for something that's going to not really benefit you in the long run anyway.
73 Jonathan Holstein, he's down on the apron. Looks like maybe a little bit of an excursion there for that number 73 machine. And Cameron, I'm also tracking the number 26 machine, Lee Staples. He's just now coming back onto the racetrack. He pitted twice in that number 26. So not quite sure what happened to that SepTire.com Chevrolet, but pitting twice. Maybe he forgot to take fuel or a speeding penalty. I went back, it didn't really look like he was speeding, so I'm not quite sure what happened with the number 26. Maybe he had to reset something or something, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm getting word that he might have merged. No, he merged correctly, so not quite sure what's up with that. So Lee Staples definitely set back here with some form of penalty in that number 26 machine, but like you said, Cameron, Jared Haggerty is your race leader, and he's about to swallow up the number 26 of Lee Staples, who will find himself one lap down here quite shortly. There is that number 26 there running up near the wall, but the lead pack is giving... Oh! The 28 Troy Haight has gone around, and here's possibly the big one. Jared Bogart's involved. Possible championship implications for the 00 machine. There was the 28 of Troy Haight. It all happened there. I gotta say, I don't really think it was Lee Staples who did anything wrong. He was well out of the way, but this 51 moved up, and the 36 might have just come unglued from his back end just a little bit and moved up and caught the right rear, of that 28 machine, turned him up into the wall.
Yeah, that's almost like a carbon copy of the last lap wreck last week, if you kind of think about it there, right there, out of turn to number 4, so interesting to see that. But yeah, like you said, I don't think Lee Staples had anything to do with that at all. He was up there doing what he needed to do, well out of the way, and just a wreck happening pretty much right as they were passing him. So, you know, I know Lee Staples wouldn't say this himself, but probably the best thing he could see in his mirror or his side window, with that wreck right there, that's gonna get him the lucky dog. I have to believe.
Yeah, it should give the lucky dog to that number 26 machine. So any issue that he might have had will kind of be eradicated. But you see a couple of the trucks taking damage, including the 77 of Giese. The 42 of Jim Foose was involved. He's one of your playoff contenders. Richard Stallings in the number 17 was involved in that bright blue and yellow. He's had a fantastic run here tonight. The 00 Bogart, he's your points leader coming into tonight's race. He has a lot of right rear and front end damage. So a couple of your big names in the series receiving damage here. Jason Stewart in the 1 machine. We've seen him up front a lot tonight with a good chunk of damage. Brad Cross has some right rear damage. Definitely tough break for Troy Haight and the number 28. He's been able to limp that number 28 machine back around the racetrack, but that number 28 smashed in both on the front and the rear.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot of drivers taking damage here. 36 Ty Hester actually had to take a tow back to pit road, so he's going to be 1 or 2 laps down when it's all said and done. But looks like not a lot of activity on pit road just yet. Pit road might actually not be open yet, I don't believe so.
It is open. You got a good chunk of cars or trucks coming down pit road right now. In fact, not too many cars staying out. Haggerty, Worsler, Staples, Mitch Brown. Staples will take the wave around here past the pace car for the Lucky Dog, but pretty much everyone from third place on back pitted, except for Tim Knott, Kelsey Rogers, there's someone else out there, Pete Baskins. But I think a couple of those drivers are one lap down, so definitely interesting to see a lot of cars pit here. Cameron, do you think tires are a big deal? We've seen a couple trucks out there loose. Do you think they wanted to come down and get if they took 2 tires into that first stop, just take 2 more tires and kind of get a fresh set?
Yeah, really, that would be what I would probably do in this situation. If you probably took 2 right sides on your pit stop, you can go ahead and take those left sides and just make sure you have pretty fresh tires for the end of this race. We're gonna have about an 18 or so lap shootout to the end, and you do want as much grip as you can get out of those tires, but you also want track position. But I believe only about 5-6 cars staying out on the track right now. But why don't we go ahead and talk to somebody and see what their strategy kind of mindset is, see if we can get a hold of somebody. A favorite of mine to talk to is always the 29 of Will Worsler, so let's go ahead and talk to him. He's always a good interview. Drag him up here. Will Worsler, this is Cameron Rich up in the booth. You got a copy, bud?
Yeah, what's going on, Cameron?
It's going pretty well. Probably not as good as you are right out there in the second position, but we saw you sideways earlier in the race. I gotta say, it was one of the best saves I've ever seen in a restrictor plate race or any type of race. So
Thank you.
Kind of just kind of take us through how your race has gone since that moment, and even including that moment. It looks like it's gone pretty well for you.
Well, including that moment, I couldn't tell you, man. I had a handful, but after that, it's gone okay. It really seems like after probably 12 to 15 laps, these tires get a little bit of wear on them. The right rear's wearing more, which makes it loose, and it feels like your rear end could step out entering 3, especially. And I know that some guys did that in practice, and luckily I haven't seen it in the race so far. So it's just kind of it may be making for better racing because everybody knows to be cautious. But either way, it's going good right now. But about this point last week, it was going good for me and didn't light up so well. So I'm not celebrating anything yet.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you that same exact question. We've seen these trucks be a little bit on edge, especially into turn 3, like you said. Do you think your tires are pretty good for this final 18 or so lap shootout that we're going to get here?
Oh, man, I'm good to go.
All
now
right,
that I've said that, I'm going to cause a wreck, but no, I feel like I'm good to go.
All right, well, hopefully we don't kind of emanate the commoner's curse here like we usually always do for some reason,
right.
But we'll wish you the best of luck here and let you get back to what you're doing, and definitely hope to talk to you again after this race.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, good to talk to you too.
All right, so good to hear that we weren't completely wrong on our tire prediction, but I think Peter Short has caught up with somebody else that he wants to talk to here.
Well, hold on just a moment. I have something going on in the background I need to take care of. So, Cameron, see if you can take another one.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. I heard some dogs barking in the background. Definitely have to think about that. But let's go ahead and let's go to the field a little bit, see who we want to talk to. Let's pull up our current leader right now. All right, Jared Haggerty, this is Cam Rich up in the booth. You got a copy, bud?
Yeah, buddy, I got you.
All right, man. Well, it's going pretty good for you out there, right out there in the lead. You got out there pretty quickly, about 4 laps from your starting position, and you were already out in the lead and have pretty much been in that top 3 ever since. But just kind of talk us how the race is going for you up to this point.
It's been going pretty good. Working with my teammates a lot. All the Toyota drivers were pretty much working together. Dirty Bird Sim Racing, Will Worsler Racing. We're trying to work the best we can together right now. And hopefully we can bring home a checkered flag this week after getting wrecked at Talladega.
Absolutely. Well, we do want to ask you, we heard from the driver behind you, Will Worsler. He's saying that the trucks are having a little bit of a tire wear. Not so much issue, but it's definitely a noticeable amount in the rear, where the rear end is kind of stepping out a little bit in turn 3. Are you kind of feeling that yourself out there?
Yeah, we actually mentioned that last time. We're feeling it about maybe 15 laps in, right off of 3. So if you have anybody on your bumper at that point, going to the 3 about 15 laps in, or even like 10 laps in, I'm going to say you're probably going to be going around.
All right, well, it's definitely good to know, Jared, but we're going to let you get back to what you're doing out there, so best of luck the rest of this race, and hope to talk to you again afterwards.
Yep, 10-4. Have a good one.
All right, well, that was the driver number 6 machine, and Cameron, sounds like everything has quieted down at my residence, so back to the job at hand here on 3 Wide TV. But nonetheless, yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're going to have a 17-lap shootout here around Talladega. This race has pretty much flown by pretty much all green. Well, it has been all green up until this first caution took out a couple of the main contending trucks out there. A lot of trucks staying on pit road to fix a lot of damage. We'll have to keep an eye on how those other race cars run out there on the racetrack now that their damage has been repaired as much as it can be under this caution flag. So we'll have to see if there's any more championship implications. But yeah, Jared Haggerty, we just talked with him. He is your race leader. Last week from the ASRS Premier Cup Series side, we didn't get to cover this at the top of the show, but we did have a couple of drivers receiving strikes, including Troy Haight, Mitch Brown, a level 1 strike, as well as a Racecraft level 2 strike against Ty Hester. So, you know, with that other accident here tonight, you might receive another strike. We'll have to see. He also had a paint scheme violation, which means he kind of forfeits his winnings from last week, which is kind of a tough break. Remember, he did win the SMS Cup Series side, and unfortunately won't be able to back that up with a Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series win here in the Sam Maxwell Customs Talladega 150. But definitely a tough break for him in that number 36. He is still currently sitting on pit road, but pace car lights are off. Cameron, what do you think we're going to see in these next 17 laps?
I think we're going to see what we saw in the last 40, but ramped up to 11. Like you said, pace car making that hard left turn. Well, not really a hard left turn, kind of a soft left turn here at Talladega on to the pit road. And a couple hundred feet before we are even thinking about getting the green flag here, you see coming through this trial here. The flagman right there holding that yellow flag for a couple more seconds, going to display that green flag right about now. And the green flag is out here at Talladega. Once again, 17 laps to go for all the marbles here at the end of this race. And the flagman is absolutely going crazy there. He is laving that thing away, but a good start on the outside for that number 29. And he's going to actually lose some time there because he had such a good start. He could not back up that drafting run. He's actually backing up to the number 3 of Pete Baskins with help from the 72, 1 and 2. So the inside line having the better start right now.
Yeah, remember that number 29 machine. He did receive a little bit of damage earlier on with a little bit of contact from the number 3 machine who we ride on board with right there. A little bit more gentle of a bump this time, though, as the number 29 Will Worcester trying to get that high side rev up, unable to do so. As you see, that inside line just formed up a little bit better, a little bit more momentum down there right now. We'll see if that changes. And I'm kind of expecting to see one of those drivers up in the front jump to that high side in front of Will Worcester, but no one making that move just yet.
And Will Worcester trying to go actually to the third groove for a moment there, but he thinks better of it to pull down right back in front of that number 3 of Pete Baskins. It's like he can't really do anything with that high side. Yeah, there's only 5 trucks up there right now, and the inside line is about 10, 11 trucks deep, all the way back to Jim Foose right now. So actually, as I said, out of turn number 2, that high line does have a pretty good run. Good push from that number 3 of Pete Baskins and Michael Krobach for Will Worcester into turn number 3. So they'll see if they can make something happen. But definitely the game of numbers not on their side right now.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the number 28 of Troy Haight, it looks like his accident ended up terminal for that number 28. He sits on pit road right now as we speak. But look at the number 29, Will Worcester. He's finally got that high line running. And he was closing in on the number 6 machine, and here comes the 51 of Mitch Brown. He's decided to jump to the high side, but not so fast.
Here comes Will Worcester.
Because, yeah, Will Worcester didn't decide to stay with that number 51 machine. Worcester's going to try and use the high line with help from the Pete Baskins right beside him. We're 3 wide for the race lead.
And now that number 51, Mitch Brown, kind of in a little bit of a sucker hole. Actually, right there, Michael Krobach comes to pick him up, but he had no drafting help for a moment there and lost a lot of momentum. But Will Worcester actually ducking down to the inside line. And here comes Mitch Brown once again. So what looked to be a bad move turned out to be pretty good for him because he's going to shoot right back out to the lead, and it pulls right down in front of Will Worcester.
Yeah, kind of interesting to see that because I think Mitch Brown was a little bit upset that Will Warser didn't decide to go with them, so he shut the door on that number 29 machine. But now Michael Krobach in the number 72. Remember, Krobach has been playing this race very defensively, but now with 14 laps to go, that number 72 is trying to take the race lead for the first time tonight.
We are side by side all the way through the pack, and the new player up here at the front, 55 of Brian Yazik, right there behind the 72 on the outside line. Also Chris Titus in the 04. Fourth car on the inside line. We haven't seen them play up towards the front too much today, but both those drivers looking to make something happen in these late stages of the race. So the inside line, kind of the stronger line right now, but the outside line has about 8-9 trucks on it right now. So hopefully they're hoping to try to make something happen on that outside line and make a move through this 3 and 4 end of the speedway. And it looks like they got a pretty good run right now. We'll see what happens here off of turn number 4. Michael Krobach leading that charge in the outside line, trying to get beside that 51 of Mitch Brown, and here he comes side by side for the race lead through the tri-oval. I don't think it's going to happen this lap, but they need to work up momentum for the next one.
Yeah, and we basically have a 24-car lead pack with only 13 laps to go here at Talladega. There's the number 45 machine. We've seen him up near the front, that of course being Nick Curling. He's sitting in the 11th position, just outside the top 10 last time by at the stripe. How about the number 48 machine, Cody Spiker? We saw him way back in the field. He was actually part of that trailing group that was so far back in the pack, they were about 3/4 of a lap down, and now he is up into the top 10.
Yeah, a lot of drivers in this pack were in that group right there. Number 31, Jimmy McKee, also one of those, and he has gotten himself up to about the 7th position. So you can see on board with Cody Spiker here, these trucks are moving around a lot, and that is not the driver just moving around because they want to. That's just the air, how the way it works. It bumps these cars around, it buffets the air a lot. There's a lot of turbulent air going around this racetrack right now, and it really moves these trucks around. Up here at the front again, it's 3 wide for the race lead. Will Warser, Mitch Brown, and Jared Haggerty. Will Warser trying to cut Mitch Brown once again, but now Will Warser is on the outside with no help except for the number 3 of Pete Baskins, and he's losing spots quickly.
We've seen Pete Baskins and the 29 of Will Warser work well together here today, but the number 3 machine's going to duck back in. I say well, at least they've worked well in the last 5 laps of one. They're not completely the whole race, but nonetheless, looks like the 29 of Worcester's dropping back once again. He's hoping to pick up a little bit of help. Oh, 47, Richard Fletcher, looks like he got loose in the tri-oval. Good save by that number 47 machine. Right in the middle of the pack, there he is. But indeed, the 29 of Will Worcester was picked up by his teammate Tyler Seville. Seville running in the 16th position. He was another one of those drivers in that second group under that first long green flag caution, or long green flag run, I should say. Green flag caution, that makes no sense. Green flag run until that first caution, but Tyler Seville now working his way up through the field.
And we had 3 wide again. 31 of Jimmy McKee actually shooting the gap on the backstretch, and the big loser is going to be the 55 of Brian Yazik. We're on board with him right now. You see all the cars passing him to the left, and he cannot do a thing about that. He just has to slot in where there's an opening. So he's going to lose about 10-15 spots in one fell swoop there, and that is a helpless feeling as a driver. You see the 51 of Mitch Brown right there. He is playing the lines like a pro here at the front. He is going where the runs are and trying to do that whole Dale Jr. thing from back in the day where he would always just move his car all around the racetrack and try to get in that line that was moving the best and try to just block everything. So doing a good job out here at the front.
Let's see if we can get on board with the number 48 machine down the back stretch. I just want everyone here on the broadcast to see the tail end of that number 31 truck. I guess you saw a quick peek of it there. It just says hello on the back end of the number 31. See if we can flip this camera around, see if we can look out. There you go. Hello! I love seeing that at a super speedway. That is definitely not exactly what you want to see. You don't want to see it on the car in front of you. You want to see clean racetrack, but at least he's being polite about it in that number 31 machine, as we now only have 9 laps to go here at Talladega, just under 25 miles around this joint, as we still ride on board with that number 48 machine. He's trying to push to number 31. Ooh, man, they got close there coming out of turn number 2. Did the 48 and the 04, but that outside line now all of a sudden really well formed up trying to push Michael Krobach to the race lead. Still, Mitch Brown on the inside. Like you said, Cameron, he's been playing the lines, kind of going back and forth. That 51's done a fantastic job here tonight, but maybe that outside line can get a run going. We'll see if they get a move coming out of turn number 4.
And the number 72, Michael Krobach, he's got a good run right now. He's going to pull towards the race leader right there. Somebody on pit road, I believe that's the 41 of Tim Knott, but a good run for the 72 of Michael Krobach. He's got help from those SRM Motorsport teammates behind him, Jimmy McKee and Cody Spiker, so they're giving him a good push, but he cannot clear that number 51 just yet. That number that's pretty well formed up for both lines here, side by side down the backstretch.
2 by 2 by 2, pretty much all the way through the field until you get a little bit further back where they're starting to get a little bit more racy. Looks like they're 3 wide now for around the 10th position. Chris Lane, Will Worsler, and Jim Foose. Remember, Jim Foose was involved in that first caution flag that we had here tonight, but that number 41 still looks pretty racy, even though it's got a very crinkled front end. Jim Foose trying to do everything he can with that number 42 machine, but now they're 2 wide for just about the first 20 trucks or so.
And Michael Krobach had a good run down the backstretch, but it died off. He decided to stay with the 31 of Jimmy McKee instead of pulling down in front of the 51. That might end up helping him here in a few laps time, but we only have 7 laps to go, so definitely, it absolutely is definitely go time here at Talladega. Off of turn number 2, number 72 has a good run once again. This might be the lap where he does it. Got a good push from behind. That number 31 is absolutely laid up on his bumper and a couple inches back to the 48, but not able to clear the 51 once again. He's going to stay up there on that outside line with the 31. Jimmy McKee looks like he might be having some temperature issues. He's having to duck out and get some air to that motor. So that number 72 might be looking for that move. Oh, Jared Haggerty goes 3 wide right there in the middle line. He's trying to make a move happen.
Yeah, don't think that was supposed to happen there. Going through the triangle, I don't know if the number 6 just got so hot that he had to jump out, but look at this, all of a sudden a scramble for position here as we now only have 6 laps to go. We're 3 wide for the race lead. Look at the high groove. Oh, 4 wide, no contact right in front of the field. It's 72 up in the wall, flipping, and oh my gosh, here we go, the big one at Talladega with 6 laps to go.
That was a big wreck. They're still wrecking there off of turn number 2, and that was just a product of 4 wide that went wrong, really. They just ran out of room, and you see the absolute carnage that happened after that. We'll see what happened here on the replay, but absolute massive accident here with 6 laps to go.
Well, that's not what these drivers wanted to have happen. That's for sure, and unfortunately that man right there, the 72, was going for the race lead with that man right there, the 31 of Jimmy McKee, and just a little bit of contact right there nudged the number 31 around, and it was on from there. And boy, Krobach was almost through it, but it was in the wrong place at the wrong time, as you see that number 48 machine just spin around in circle after circle after circle. Right at the front of the field, Cameron, that's really not the right place for an accident to happen. Here we go, on board with the 0, the 00 of Bogart, as he just slammed his truck up into the wall, hit the brakes, and those two together helped him slow down, and Bogart once again avoids a big accident, still avoiding accidents there as J.R. Bash got into it with, I think, the 31 of McKee right there at the end. Man, oh man, that was a tough break for a couple of drivers there right at the front.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of our strongest trucks of the day, the number 72 of Michael Krobach, a couple of the drivers behind him and being involved as well. Number 72 was definitely looking to maybe win this one, and we're going to go on board with the 11 car right here, Tyler Seville, and you see just kind of gets clipped right there, trying to save the truck on the apron, and not really going to happen, but he gets it righted, but a little bit of damage on that machine, and actually it's not too much really. It could have been a lot worse from where that kind of happened, but he gets away pretty well.
I want to see if we can get one more on board with the number 29 machine of Will Worsler. Not quite sure if we can get that. But Will Worsler here did an amazing job. Got a little bit of damage, but I think iRacing kind of worked him through it. We'll see there on board with the number 29 machine. He sees the chaos start right there, and he just shoots this thing down to the bottom, gets a little bit of a love tap in the side from the number 45 machine. Sorry about that, Nikki. But definitely doesn't look like too much damage on that number 29 machine.
Absolutely not, and definitely could have been a lot worse, but he's still still relatively okay in that 29. That truck has been through a lot today, if you think about it, and Wolf's probably going to be happy to get out of Talladega after the way his night went last week and this week. But you know, we heard him say he's not the biggest fan of these types of races, and kind of see why. It's not been squeaky clean for him.
Yeah, he at the top of the show, he was actually in the chat here on YouTube and said that he had a bad feeling about this one. So hopefully, hopefully it goes a little bit better than he was hoping for once the green flag dropped. But we still have 2 laps to go once we go back to green. And Cameron, it is the 3 words that a lot of these drivers did want to hear at the start of tonight's race: green, white, checker upcoming.
Yeah, as of Talladega, couldn't get worse for some of these guys. Green, white, checker, it's always kind of throw a wrench into things, and definitely gives you a lot to think about. You only have a couple laps to make your moves, and these trucks really aren't even wound up all the way as soon as that white flag is going to be displayed. So it's going to be something to see, and I think, I think with the way this race is going, it looks like the lines are pretty equal. We might have a deadlock kind of finish here if things go how I think they might go. So definitely going to be interesting to watch.
Definitely going to be a good show. And look at that number 3 machine of Pete Baskins. He's got quite a bit of damage on that number 3 machine, but he's staying out there on the racetrack. So we'll have to see what that number 3 can do. He looks like he'll be the second truck in the outside groove once we go back to green flag racing. So that could definitely hurt that outside groove. We'll have to see if that plays into what Mitch Brown is thinking. In fact, we'll see if we can grab the driver of the number 51, Mitch Brown. There he is on your screen. Let's see if we can dial him up here in the 3-wide TV booth. Mitch Brown, Peter Short here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Maybe.
Well, maybe. Well, we'll find out after a couple laps, isn't that right? You got the number 3 right behind you here on this restart that's upcoming, but unfortunately he has a little bit of damage on the front end of that number 3. How you think you're gonna play this?
Oh, I got a plan already. I ain't gonna share it, but I already got some up my sleeve.
Ooh, well, I like that. You have to play the poker face at this point in the race, so that's quite all right. How have these trucks been driving out there? We've seen a couple of the drivers kind of struggle, possibly getting a little bit loose. Have you experienced that in that number 51?
Oh yeah, it's definitely loose on I'd say corner entry of 3 and a little bit in 1, maybe a little bit 2, but it is a little loose. If you kind of do a sudden turn of the wheel, kind of really keep it straight. Any sudden movements, you're liable to spin the truck around and wreck the whole field.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is. It's been a fantastic showing that you've had out there. You were kind of playing the lines earlier, but how important is it to you to kind of stay up front and ahead of all that mess like what just went down?
It works sometimes. It doesn't work the other times, but just yeah. I mean, you're better. You're not gonna get in the wreck if you're ahead of it.
Oh, that is 100% true. But speaking of getting ahead, let's see if you can get ahead of the field and come home with a checkered flag, Mitch. Best of luck here for what should be the first attempt at a green-white checker.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, well, that is driver of the number 51 machine, Mitch Brown. Remember, he was oh so close to getting a win last week in that number 51. It all went wrong on the last lap. We'll see if he can do a little bit better on the last lap this time around. But let's see, Cameron Rich has actually caught up, I believe, with the number 72 of Michael Krobach, who was there going for the race lead, but is now in the infield care center.
Yeah, I got it right here. Michael Krobach, driver of the 72. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, probably not the way you wanted to kind of end this night. You definitely had a strong truck out there and kind of hit the wall fairly hard, it looked like. But kind of just take us through the race, how it happened up to the point of that accident, and kind of what you saw from your perspective.
Yeah, we had a really fast number 72 HPP simulation Chevy, and started up front and wanted to lead a lap at the start of the race. So ran up front there and got a little crazy. Didn't didn't feel comfortable in the truck. It was getting loose in corner entry and corner exit, so I thought we'd drop back to the back of the pack, hang out with some teammates there, the 55, the 42, the 45, and our pit strategy worked out. We caught the lead pack, we gained about 10 spots, and it's kind of just hanging in there, making a run to the end, and unfortunately picked the wrong lane at the end, and we should have blocked that bottom when the 6 got that run.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, your race here at Talladega pretty much over with, but in a couple weeks we go to the Lucas Oil Raceway. A bit different race than this one. How are you looking forward to that one?
Lucas Oil is one of my best tracks on iRacing, so I can't wait to put that number 72 hopefully back in victory lane.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you talking with us. Tough break today, but definitely better luck in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Cameron.
All right. Well, you heard from the driver of the 72. Doesn't seem too disappointed that it all kind of went crashing down for him, but definitely put a good run out here today. One of the strongest trucks all day long, and not the end he wanted to have at all.
Yeah, we'll definitely, unfortunately, rest in peace, number 72 truck. Also, rest in peace, my voice. Shot up a couple of octaves there as that number 72 went flying through the air. But Cameron, green, white checker, first attempt at it. We get 3 attempts here in the American Sim Racing Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series. And we'll see just how long of a race the Sam Maxwell Customs Talladega 150 will end up being. But at least for now, it will be or at least the first attempt at the green-white checker. But pace car lights are off. And Cameron, just a couple more miles. Will they be able to do it? Do you think we'll see another green-white checker? Yes or no?
I really don't want to answer that question because I'm always wrong about it, and plus, the commentators curse and ray gun and all that. I think we do have that out here today, so let's just go ahead and give that. We'll plead the 5th on that one, or at least I'll plead the 5th on that one, and hopefully that this race ends up going the distance it should, and not really getting extended
well, now
too
you
much.
said it. But nonetheless, green flag is back in the air here as the flagman tries to kill that green flag. And I think that is exactly what the 51 had up his sleeve. He had help from the number 6 machine. Once that number 6 machine got going, he decided to slot down in behind him. And now a little bit of a nudge from Chris Titus in the 04. That front group, Cameron, front 3 cars have kind of scooted away from the field. Have they got too far out front, do you think?
I think that's a dangerous position to be in because they are so far out in front of the field that I think those 2 behind them, I believe that's the 01 of Christopher Lane and Nick Curling in the 45. Look at this run they have. We're on board with Christopher Lane right now. He's got a huge run. Let's see what he does with it. He might go up here and follow the 04 of Chris Titus, but really can't do anything right there. So they're going to have to fall in right behind them once again. But it's about 5 trucks out here at the front, and then further 3 behind, led by Will Worsler. There's Jim Foose in that pack as well. I believe Tyler Seville as well. So they're going to have to try to make something happen. But we have the white flag out here at Talladega. 1 more lap to go. 2.66 miles of racing left. We'll see what can happen here in the last 2 miles of it here.
Yeah, what will happen? Will Worsler's got to run. He's closing in on this lead group. If they start racing, this might be Will Worsler's race. Will Worsler, he's closing in. We're right on board with that number 29. He's going to go to the middle groove, get behind Nick Curling, but Nick Curling's all of a sudden starting to drop back because he's got no help. Still single file up at the front between Chris Lane, Chris Titus, Mitch Brown, and Jared Haggerty. Will the number 6 take it to victory lane here? Only time will tell as they come out of turn number 4.
Currently the race is between the number 6 of Haggerty and the 51 of Mitch Brown. What's going to happen here off turn number 4? This is where the races are won and lost. Number 51 looks on the outside. He's got help from Chris Titus to the line. Chris Titus ducks low. 3 wide for the race lead, and it's going to be a 3 wide finish. I think Jerry Haggerty won the race there.
Yeah, I believe so too. He got turned there after the start-finish line. But I'm pretty sure that iRacing is scoring Jared Haggerty as the race winner. Chris Titus comes home with 2nd, Mitch Brown 3rd. And what about Jim Foose in the number 42 machine? He was involved in the first caution flag, a completely crinkled front end on that 42 machine. He comes home with 4th. Let's go back and see this one, how this all went down. But Cameron, 3 wide at the finish. You can't ask for anything better at Talladega. As Chris Titus, man, he tried down there on the inside groove. He made a really good move down there, but it was the number 6 of Jared Haggerty by 14 thousandths of a second, and Chris Titus by 25 thousandths of a second over Mitch Brown for 2nd. Let's see if we can slow this down right here at the start-finish line and just see how this played out. Oh, here we go. Ultra slow-mo here on 3-Wide TV. Bring out the ultra slow-mo, Carlos.
Yeah, we call this Cameron
Here
Rich
we
mode.
go.
Extra slow.
Extra slow, yeah. And you can see, man, I'm really impressed. I gotta say, with the move that Chris Titus made. No, oh man, that wasn't very much. And look at Jim Foose squeaking across the line in fourth, just ahead of Chris Lane. That was a great move he made on that final lap. Remember, Jim Foose, he started that last lap down about the 7th position or so. So Jim Foose, fantastic run for him in that 42. Remember, he's one of your championship contenders, is Jim Foose. He's in the playoffs, both on the Premier Series side and the Truck Series side of things. So, you know, he needed a good run here tonight. He came into tonight 4th place in points in the Premier Series. He came into tonight tied for 2nd in the Truck Series points. So Jim Foose could come out of this one as your points leader. No, I think Haggerty will with his checkered flag here tonight. So Haggerty, I think, will take the points lead away from Will Worsler. So definitely impressive for the Truck Series driver, Jared Haggerty, getting the W here tonight. And of course, that will get him into the next round, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the best possible result, like you said, Peter. You come out here to try to do something, and Jared Haggerty, one of the strongest trucks here tonight. He was up front all day long and got it done when it counted. And for Mitch Brown, he thought he had it all kind of played out there at the end, but Chris Titus in that 0-4 kind of being the monkey or in the wrench in the whole thing. He kind of made a 3-wide move there, and a good move at that, just not able to nip the 6 at the line. But nice little 3-wide finish there at Talladega. Not something you see all the time, but definitely a really cool one, and pretty clean race by Talladega standards, Peter.
Yeah, very clean race for Talladega standards. And I mean, I've been very impressed all year long by these American Sim Racing Series drivers. They're all very, very good, talented race car drivers. And on a racetrack like this, where other leagues have smash fests, they come out here to Talladega and have a very good showing and have a 3-wide finish across the start-finish line for the win. And a very, very entertaining show here tonight, here all around. And it's really, you know, it's really what the playoffs are all about. Getting your car to the finish line first. And now we see the first driver who will make it through to the championship finale, assuming that Jared Haggerty can make the next 2 Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series start. Well, everyone, we're going to see if we can go get those interviews lined up for you. We will be talking to your top 3 finishers, assuming that they will give us an interview. So we're just going to step away for a brief moment, catch our thoughts, and line up those interviews for you. We'll be right back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Talladega SuperSpeedway. We've just concluded tonight's event. Jared Haggerty coming home with the win at 57 laps of Talladega action. But before we talk to your top three, we got an interview with the league organizer and the big dude himself, Jim Foose. 4th place finish tonight for him. Jim, kind of just talk us through your race tonight. How did it go from start to finish?
Yeah, we had a really strong run with the Menards Toyota Tundra here, and just had a good race going. We got collected. I have no idea what happened. I didn't see anything except the back of the 17 truck when we had that wreck, probably 3/4 of the way through it. And we got a little bit of nose damage, and the truck just couldn't lead a pack, but it definitely could still suck up and run pretty good. So kind of held out there a little bit at the end, and then with the green-white checkered, we finally got into position and then just started picking off trucks. I think a few of them had some damage, so it was a little easier to do that than it was previously. But yeah, what a run for that Menards Tundra, man. That's really exciting.
Heard from a couple drivers tonight saying that there were some tire wear concerns out there on the racetrack today. Did you? Well, actually, I was going to ask you, did you kind of feel that? But I saw that 42 wagging the tail a little bit there in turns 3 and 4 a couple laps. How did that kind of transpire itself?
Yeah, it was definitely wagging the tail, kind of like the dogs that like NutriChamps, which are available at Menards there through the corners. I don't know if it was a serious problem. It was really uncomfortable and just kind of edgy for us. But that's what you get whenever you're running speeds just about as fast as Xfinity X5 Internet. Let's see, did I get all the plugs in there?
Yeah, I think you got all the plugs in there. I think the boat's not going to sink now.
Well, that's another thing. You have to use that the seal tape and
Oh man, Flex Seal.
The name of the foam, Flex Seal. That's it. Yeah, Flex Seal tape and all that stuff. I fixed my my power washer hose with that stuff. That's also at Menards, by the way. But yeah, just a good run overall. Was a little edgy, but what I learned was just to kind of drop back when it got edgy, and it might have saved us from one of the wrecks at least.
One more question for you for tonight, but before we get to that question, I want to ask you, next week we go to or not next week, 2 weeks time, we take these trucks over to the Lucas Oil Raceway just down the road from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. How are you looking forward to that race?
Yeah, that's actually the track that I won my first Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series race at, back way before iRacing, back in NASCAR 2003. 2005, I won that race, and yeah, it's always an exciting track. We've struggled there the last couple of years. I think we've been in wrecks the last 2, and just haven't really got everything that we needed with it being a playoff race. And the year that it was in the summer, I think it was 2016, we almost won the thing, but Ty Hester turned us with just a handful of laps to go. So it's a track. I mean, we have a love-hate relationship with it, and Lucas Oil is there, and Lucas Oil is also available at Menards. So I guess we'll be happy to go there in a couple weeks. Got a cup race next week though that we got to get through first.
Absolutely. Well, I did hear that there is a kind of a special event looming on the horizon. Maybe you want to kind of talk about.
Well, there's actually a couple. There's the 22nd annual All-American 400, which is going to be a super late model and tour modified, 200 laps each. It'll be a Wednesday and Thursday night, November 6th and 7th. So that's coming up. That also dates way back to, I believe, NASCAR Racing 2 days. The race is older than some of the members of our league. So I haven't run in all of them. A guy named Jimmy McKinley started it out back in, I believe, 1988 and handed it over to me in 2005. And here we are quite a few years later, a couple gray hairs later, with that one. So that's always an exciting race. And then December Dirt Week's coming up in December with the dirt cars. Format should be out hopefully by the middle of next week, or when I finally get it written, I guess.
Awesome stuff, Jim. As always, before we let you go, I do want to say one thing. Thank you so much for mentioning NR 2003, because that takes me back to my NR 2003 days. Seems like so long ago, but definitely really fun times back then. Sometimes I wish I had it back, but it's in the past. But before we let you go, do you have any final shout outs you want to give anyone you want to thank and all that?
Yeah, just a big thanks to Menards for everything that they do with our Toyota Tundra team. Maxwell, American Regardless, Sam Maxwell Customs, Driven Designs, Toyota, Hulko Intercon. Also, just want to draw attention on the doors of my truck. There's two really important stickers. There's of course our cat Honey that we had for almost 21 years. Been riding with me since early 2014 when we lost her. And then right below that is a purple ribbon with hashtag Do It for Shelly. So we lost my cousin Shelly early in 2017, and the ribbon's been riding there with us all this time. So just pretty cool little things that we've added to our truck over the years, and keep adding to it every time we go out.
Definitely good to hear you have some special passengers on board for each and every race, Jim. But as always, thank you for talking with us, and can't wait to talk to you again next week.
All right. Well, I think that Cameron, I think we've caught up now with your third place finisher, Mitch Brown. Yeah, I think here he is. Mitch Brown, Peter Short here in the 3-Wide TV booth. We talked to you not too long ago, buddy. And you kind of kept your cards close to your hand, and I think we pretty much figured it out there right on that restart as you were able to duck in behind the number 6 of Haggerty. But unfortunately, not coming home with the finish you wanted here tonight, coming home just a few spots short. But at least you didn't end up on the tow truck like you did last week on the Cup Series side. Talk us through your race in those last few laps.
Yeah, like you said, definitely an improvement from last week. Don't want to be on the tow truck at all. It's pretty bad. But no, the race was really pretty good. Pretty tame. You know, I was kind of hesitant at qualifying at first, but I just said screw, why not? And it kind of got a little hectic there for a little bit, but it was pretty tame up front. There wasn't really a lot of guys weaving around a lot, so I was pretty happy with the race today.
It definitely looked pretty good from your side of things pretty much all race long. You led a good chunk of laps here tonight, 13 laps to be exact, but that number 51 was pretty much in the top 5 all night long. And, a good result here is definitely will help you as you look forward to end up in the championship pair of drivers that make it through to the next round. How important is it to get out of kind of the wild card race with the top 5?
We just, like you said, this is a definite wild card race, and just to come out here clean with a top 3 with a podium finish is probably the best thing you can ask for. Wins much better, but I mean, second, top 3, top 5 is probably a good way to get good points and go on to the next race.
Yeah, because you have to think about the fact that now, at least for the Truck Series side of things, Jared Haggerty's punched his card into the final round. So there's only 3 more spots to play for, with 2 more Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series races left, I believe, until that season finale. So definitely something you're going to have to be thinking of going forward. But getting out of here with a good finish will help that. As we move on to the Premier Series side of things, let's just take a quick look at what we have coming up on the schedule. We do have the Phoenix Cup Series race next week, and then we go to Lucas Oil Raceway the week after that, back here in the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series. What are your thoughts about Phoenix and Lucas Oil?
Phoenix, I wouldn't say it's our best track. It's an okay track. I really haven't had a lot of success there. Kind of just really focusing on trying to get a good points day, and hopefully we can be there for the final race of the Premier Series.
All right. Well, before we let you go here tonight, you got some shout-outs for us?
Yeah, I do. Just want to thank everyone, Dirty Bird Sim Racing, Apex Sim Sport, all the guys in the league, Jim for putting us on each and every week, and Jared, that's a little favor for me to you. I let you win tonight because you helped me out in Daytona, so that's I guess we're even now. But and also gotta thank you guys especially. You guys do a fantastic job broadcasting us each and every week, and hopefully we got more good races to come for you guys, and hopefully you guys stick around for next year because it's gonna keep on getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be part of this league. It's been great to get to know, the drivers here and kind of see the storyline as it has developed throughout the year. But that the storybook is coming to an end for 2019 and next year 2020. Who knows what it will bring here on 3Y TV in the American Sim Racing Series. We're looking forward to it. But Mitch, thanks for stopping by here tonight. Congratulations on your third place finish, and we hope to talk to you again next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is your third place finisher here tonight, Mitch Brown. And speaking of second place finishers, however, Chris Titus, I believe Cameron Rich has caught up with him. Well, perhaps.
Yeah,
there he is.
Yeah, I got him right here. Have some technical issues all day today. I'm not sure why, but got Chris Titus right here. You got a
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well, 14 one-thousandths of a second away from a win there. Very good move there at the very end. Came up just a bit short, but just take us through your day from start to finish.
It was pretty clean and non-eventful, which was great in the first. It was fun, and it was definitely nerve-wracking there at the end. It was.
We saw you kind of pull, or you were out of the pack for about half the race, about 5 seconds behind, if not more, kind of in that second group of cars. Did that kind of happen just by circumstance, or did you have a plan to do that from the beginning?
Well, I started off, I was going to just do whatever I could to stay close, and they started getting 3 wide and kind of getting a little, nervous up front, so I decided just to back out of it a bit and just ride for a little while with, 3 to 4 seconds back, like you said, 5 seconds back, just to stay out of it. And if it did happen, the big one did happen, so that's how that worked out.
And just take us through kind of your mindset on that last lap. You had that huge run down the backstretch, and then looked like you were going to go with the 51 for a little bit. Then you cut down and made that close move on the very yellow line of the racetrack, and just nipping him at the line for second. Just take us through how that kind of transpired in your mind.
Oh, well, I saw the 51 move up, and I was going to go with him for, a split second. Thought, him and the 6 were going to go together. So I thought that the bottom was going to stay open, which luckily it did somewhat. So when he went high, I decided that, I better just stay low, and one of my teammates was behind me, so I thought maybe he could get me, across the start-finish line first. But it was fun, it was close, scary at sometimes, but it was definitely fun. And my mindset was, well, here we go. What's the worst that could happen?
Well, in 2 weeks' time, we take these trucks to a very different style of racing at the Lucas Oil Raceway, the short track right down the road from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. How are you looking forward to that?
I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite places to go in real life with the asphalt super late models. So I'm definitely looking.
All right, Chris. Well, appreciate you talking with us, and congrats on your second place finish in tonight's event. Before we let you go, you got any shout outs for us?
I'd like to give a shout out to RPM Auto Sales, 996 Speedway, MOSRN, Twitchy Race Reports, and Foose in this league. They're doing a really good job. I'm grateful to be.
All right, that was your second place finisher for tonight's event, the number 04 of Chris Titus. I believe that Peter Short has caught up with our winner, Jared.
That I have, and Jared Haggerty coming home with the checkered flag here tonight at Talladega SuperSpeedway and punching his way into the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series finale at Homestead, Miami here in a couple of weeks. Jared, oh my, this race couldn't have gone any better for you in that number 6 machine. Take us through it.
Man, that was a run and a half. I gotta think. I mean, everybody on my team helped me to that win. Mitch Brown especially, got to give the biggest shout out to him. It was a great night for the number 6 Flash Go Graphics Toyota Tundra. I mean, it was handling perfect. I mean, it was getting a little swirly down in 3 at times, but overall it was a great race. And I mean, man, I'm so happy to get this first win off my back. I mean, earlier this year we had Darlington taken away with us due to a penalty, last lap penalty, but you can't take this one from me. I won this one fair and square, y'all.
Well, let me tell you, Jared, if you don't know this, but you led more than half the race tonight. Anytime you can lead more than half the race at a super speedway, it's a darn good night. So that number 6 was definitely on point. And how important is it to you now? I mean, we've gone through this entire season. We're in the playoffs now, but you've punched your ticket into the season finale. Just take us, what's going through your head right now?
Well, it's a weight off my shoulders mostly, especially for the truck series. I mean, just the fact that I don't have to go into Lucas Oil, which is not my greatest track, and know that I'm already locked in, that's, again, a big weight off my shoulders. ISM, we should do pretty well, but my whole mindset now is just going to be consistent finishing, hopefully get at least top 15 at Lucas Oil. I should hopefully bring home at least a top 10 over at ISM, but then we'll definitely be practicing a lot over the next few weeks at Homestead so we can dial that in.
Yeah, definitely nice to kind of clear your mind and now focus on getting that championship in just about a month's time from now. But yeah, you know, we've heard from you about ISM, but next week the SMS Cup Series side goes to Phoenix. What are your thoughts about Phoenix?
Phoenix is going to be a good one, hopefully. I think I'm 5th in the Cup Series points right now. Just about 3. Well, actually, no, I'm 3rd in the Cup Series points, and luckily ISM, like Darlington, these odd-shaped tracks are usually my strong points, and hopefully I can just punch my ticket in there and hopefully maybe even come away with my second win, hopefully, of the year. But again, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be a fun one. I know I like those kind of flat, odd-shaped racetracks. So, you know, should be a fun time next week on the Cup Series side. You know, before we let you go, any final thoughts and some shout-outs for us?
I'll just go ahead and get to my long list of shout-outs. Got to thank everybody over at DBSR, Dirty Bird Sim Racing. Also got to give a big shout-out to Will Warsaw Racing. They helped a whole lot tonight with that pit strategy. My painter with Splash and Go Graphics, I got to thank Todd Kirkwood for giving all the sponsors out earlier this year. I got to thank everybody on my team, Jason, Mitch, Tim, Ty, all those guys have been a big help. Even Ty for turning me last week. I'm still going to thank him. But no, and let's see, sponsors, Splash Go Graphics. I got Cheerwine and Marriott and Sheraton this year on my truck. And hopefully I didn't miss anybody, but man, first win, I'm happy, and let's go to ISM and get Cup Series finished there, or get into the playoffs there.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic race tonight. Like I said, you led over half the race, and whenever you can do that and take the checkered flag, that is just about the best night you can hope for at a super speedway. Jared, once again, congratulations. Enjoy it. And now you can focus on that championship, but we'll still see you next week at ISM.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, everybody up here in the booth, and also thank you, Jim, for the league. And hell, let's go racing next week.
All right, well, same place, same time here on 3Wide TV, and you'll see that man right there, driver of the number 6 machine, Jared Haggerty. Cameron, fantastic race here tonight. Lots of green flag running. Only, I think, 3 caution flags tonight, which is pretty awesome. We still had a lot of finishers, you know, at the end of the race. We did have a couple of big accidents, but really, all in all, great race.
Absolutely, and saw green flag pit stops, a lot of green flag racing, like you said, and it was just an overall very competitive race. But we have your results for you here right on the screen. Jared Haggerty, his name is Blue. He comes home with the win tonight. We just talked to him. Chris Titus coming home in the 2nd position. Mitch Brown, another playoff contender, coming home in 3rd. Jim Foose, talked to him as well. First interview we talked to, he comes home with a strong 4th place finish with a bit of a beat up front end, but no harm, no foul. That truck was still competitive enough to run up front. Christopher Lane comes home in the 5th position. Will Worsler in 6th, Tyler Seville 7th, Nick Curling 8th, Brian Yazik 9th, and Lee Staples comes home in 10th.
Finishing the 11th position is the number 35, Kelsey Rogers. Alan Young comes home 12th. Jason Stewart, he is a playoff driver, comes home 13th. Richard Stallings, another playoff driver, 14th. Bogart, another playoff driver, 15th. Brad Cross, 16th. Jonathan Holstein, 17th. Jack Wells, 18th. Pete Baskins, 19th. And 20th, Alex Giese.
Coming up in 21st, blackjack position, Cody Spiker. 22nd is Richard Fletcher. J.R. Bash comes home in 23rd. Tim Knott comes home in 24th. Michael Krobach in 25th. Jimmy McKee, 26th. Edward Bray comes home in 27th. Troy Haight, 28th, comes home in his car number. 29th is Ty Hester, and 30th place is the 03 of Josh Walker.
Yeah, and after this is all said and done, Doug Mullins and was the last car. He did get out there on the racetrack, but he had some connection issues, which dropped him out. Before we let you go, kind of want to give you indication of how the Truck Series points sits. Currently, Jared Haggerty does have the points lead after tonight's dominating victory. Will Worsler is 2nd. Mitch Brown, 3rd. Jim Foose is in 4th position. Just inside the cut line. Just outside the cut line, however, is Joseph Seville, Jason Stewart, Richard Stallings, and ladies and gentlemen, Jared Mogart is the 8th place driver in points after tonight's race. So Jared Mogart will have to turn it around from his 15th place finish if he's able to make it into the Final Four. Cameron, any final thoughts?
Well, really not really about the race. It was a good Talladega race, a predictable Talladega race that kind of went just like a Talladega race should. But kind of just want to give a couple final shout-outs to a couple people that we like. First off and foremost, the viewers of 3x TV, all you guys who make this thing go round and round. We love you so much, whether you watch the live broadcasts or the replays. You are definitely what keeps us going. Sim TV for these awesome camera angles. I was kind of thinking about that when we were showing the start-finish line camera tonight. Got to thank Kyle Heyer and Finian DeCunian. Those guys are both awesome. We love them so much. Those awesome camera angles that each and every week we use them, and definitely some good stuff. And Thomas Morse from OCR TV for these awesome graphics that look very nice on these broadcasts. Got to thank him a lot. The very good color scheme and everything, all of that. And have a couple league sponsors that we need to thank as well, but I don't actually have the list pulled up.
Well, that's something that we could kind of look at. I know iRacingiFlag is one of those. Same Maxwell Customs. Sim Marketing Solutions is another one of those. And these guys are definitely, different partners that allow us to do this here for the American Sim Racing Series, which is fantastic group of sponsors that they have and people who put together Kirkwood Transportation, Driven Designs, as well those league sponsors, as well as iRacing. So pretty cool to see them as part of this league.
Absolutely. Well, Peter, I think it was another successful race here in the Sam Maxwell Customs Cup Truck Series, and this playoff picture is going to be very interesting after the next two races. It definitely is pretty fun, so I'm very excited about it myself. But any final thoughts from you tonight?
Just that all these people watching on YouTube will have to tune in next week to find out how the next round of the season plays out.
Well, I think that's all we got for you guys tonight. So from myself, from Peter Short, from Carlos DaCosta, manning those cameras like he does and doing all the awesome things he does behind the scenes, we wish you all a good night and stay safe.
See ya!